I believe it's really important that the 4-H program continues and grows in working with community organizations and agencies in order to grow our ability to give program service to a broader range of youth of diverse backgrounds and underserved audiences. And along with that, we are also able to provide caring adults, increased number of caring adults that are interacting and supporting our youth.
Well, I retired from teaching, and I taught for many years kids that had emotional behavior disorders, and what I found were many of those kids were coming out of poverty. Kids First is an after-school program located in the low-income housing project in Winona, and so anybody who lives in this area is at or below the poverty line. So poverty is probably one of the predominant issues that the kids and the families are dealing with.
I think one of the big things, and this seems really obvious, is to do those basic things like learning the children's names as a program coordinator and as somebody who manages volunteers, making that a priority. To know each kid's name, and then to also make time to sit down with them and get to know them better so that you can establish that rapport, because having that rapport with children is really key to creating successful after-school programming with any organization. And one of the great things about 4-H is that they had their YPQA youth program quality assessment training, when they really emphasized those steps in creating a welcoming and fun kind of after-school program. And I think that's incredibly important, especially with kids from socioeconomically disadvantaged backgrounds, you know, so they feel like they have someone they can come to and who knows them and understands them and likes working with them. And so that really contributes to creating success with working with diverse groups.
When I first started as director of Kids First, I found that probably the most difficult thing was to establish trust with families and trust with the kids, and that's kind of a lengthy process. I would say with many families it probably took a year before they felt comfortable coming in, making conversation, exploring the center, you know. When
I first started working with the kids out at Maplewood, I mean, they have fairly distinct groups kind of broken up by basically their race. So we had African American students tended to kind of work together, the white students tend to work together, and the Hmong students tended to kind of stick together. But as we started kind of working as a group, and part of that is just creating that rapport with the kids, as they became more comfortable with me, I was able to get them involved in engaging programming, and when they started kind of sharing their talents with one another, then I noticed that the racial barriers were starting to sort of dissipate, and they were working together much more. So I had African American students working with Hmong students and Caucasian students working with African American students, and it was just a really nice change to see. In terms of expanding into underserved populations, probably the big thing is helping 4-H leaders and other people working with the organization to understand some of the issues associated with poverty, some of the stresses that the families are enduring, some of the stresses that the kids are undergoing. Again, that accessibility component, making sure that services are brought to the families, to the children, as opposed to having them at a distance. Understanding that people often don't have the resources like cars or money for transportation to access services. And also creating a good behavior management program so that your staff are equipped to deal with any behaviors that might crop up. One of the many changes I observed was just a kind of growing sense of their own self-efficacy and ability to create change. I really wanted to put the kids in leadership positions, so when I developed a program, for example, photography club out at Maplewood, or when I worked through a dental grant and I had them do presentations on dental health and healthy habits for taking care of your teeth. The children, the middle school students, I should say, were able to kind of direct their projects. And so by having those leadership positions, I could see their confidence just increase, like by leaps and bounds over time. And I think another good example is one student I had was incredibly shy when I first met her, and I got her involved in photography club, and it turned out that she was just a really great natural photographer, and kind of by being able to explore this talent, she just became this incredibly outgoing, very different, changed individual. I mean, she was really proud of her work, and it was fun to see that change in her.
Good communication, having some shared goals, making sure that you sit down and you talk about what your goals and your strategies are going to be for achieving those.
I think I learned a lot about my ability to multitask, managing volunteers and kids and multiple kinds of demands, coming up with creative and engaging projects. That was something that I had not had a ton of experience with. Leading that kind of thing, you know, on my own. But another huge gain for me was just a better understanding of children living in poverty and the kind of barriers to learning and just kind of getting along in school, getting along socially, that, you know, day-to-day poverty and that kind of stress of that existence can create. So I'm really grateful that I had that experience working with kids from socioeconomically disadvantaged backgrounds.